Not something I've played with myself yet, Sol, but it makes sense.
It does, and Seiko is historically a one-offs gamer. It's just the way he believes in building decks, so he has gone down to an extra one-of in the deck to make room for the third tradable. I'm also currently in a discussion with HS Replay about the way the stats on tradable cards are being reported, because currently, tradable is just the nuts in Demon Hunter according to stats, right? Like in the opening hand, played win rate, drawed win rate, all this kind of stuff, they're really reporting very well in terms of stats. I'm trying to nail down whether that's accurate or whether it's being misreported somewhere along the line. And if that's the case, then sure, put more tradable cards in your deck. That just makes sense. But I think the addition of like straight up +2 spell damage is good, as thank you, Guild Trader, for coming so we can take a good look at you. Because sometimes with this version of the deck now, you'll get like multiple I-beams and multiple Fellscreen Blast discounted, and then you'll have this, you know, your next spell has +2 spell damage, one-off effect in your hand, and think, well, if all my spells had +2 spell damage,
right.
I'd have 1,000,000 damage. And that's where, you know, a 2-mana Guild Trader, for example, can come into play. Not to mention, it can go all the way down to 0 very easily, because you draw it, you trade it back into your deck, you then draw it again later. That's twice it's then been discounted by Kurtrus if it goes in and out of your deck multiple times. So very, very interesting addition to the deck that I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, and we already see a bit of a rarity on Seiko's turn. Not playing the quest on 1, it's not something you have to do. It's something that doesn't come up too often in at least current meta with current builds of a lot of the quest decks. But I think it's something we'll see more and more of in the future, where it's saying, well, actually, I can spend my mana in a little bit of a stronger way. Seiko went digging first, and now he can use Final Showdown, get that active, and follow up with, you know, Sigil or anything else he feels like. So just a note, throwing it out there, you don't have to play your quest on 1 like every single game.
No, I think in fact in a lot of positions it's quite smart not to, and then sometimes even not on 2 can be an option as well with very specific hands, which I think this is very smart from Seiko. I think he's always been a player that has stayed on top of these little things, the cute plays, the hidden plays, right? He's been always a player that's kept on top of that kind of stuff, so no great surprise to see him just optimizing his turn just that little bit.
And in this matchup, because this zoo list from J4YOU is a varied, I would say, it runs, as you can see, the Flesh Giants, it runs Stealer of Souls, it has multiple ways to do or to create win conditions. Do you think that's a good thing for this Demon Hunter matchup, or do you think a more of a narrow Warlock style is actually better against OTK Demon Hunter?
I don't think there's many matchups where I'd argue that this version is actually better, like when played optimally, than the Six Demons version. I think Demon Hunter might be one of them, because you can still do the thing with Steal of Souls, right? You can still race them.
Yeah.
You can still OTK them on turn 5 or turn 6 before they're able to do it to you. But you can also play 0-mana 8/8s on turn 4 or 5 at the same time, right? Which is another thing that pressures them very nicely. It's not like, for example, the Delete version, where you'll get your Giants down very cheap, you'll play your Giants, and then they go, okay, cool, Moarg, spell damage, Immolation Aura, and then you feel like there's nothing left in your deck, right? Like they've kind of deleted your win condition at that point. Whereas with this version of the deck, you can try the giant win condition, and then if they're able to clear that, that's probably then bought you a bit of time with the Moargs and spell damage that they've used to set up your own OTK with the Stealer of Souls after that. So I think it's very, very nice overall.
What's also very nice, Seiko got some pretty good reductions there on Il'gynoth, 0-mana Fellscream. He's got Acrobatics a little bit cheaper. Obviously, Acrobatics, not a combo piece, but one of the more expensive card draws in the deck. So not too bad to get that cheap here. And I'm going to ask you the question, Subtle.
Yes.
Stealer of Souls on 4, mate?
Jam it.
I know you're a big fan of a play like this, right?
I love it. First test, Jay, as a GM Hearthstone player, you have passed with flying colours. This is a big difference of this version of the deck and the Six Demons version of the deck. I think this is a much more common play with this version of the deck, because it is Zoo, right? Like, we're calling it Zoo. It's full of minions, it curves out, it plays minions. So play your cards. If you have 4 mana, play your 4-drop. If it sticks against Demon Hunter, which it's entitled to do, there's not that many ways for them to deal 6 from off board, then you actually get a huge, huge payoff. Not to mention, this deck also plays the security blanket of Raise Dead, right? When that minion is now in the pool.
Right.
You're not necessarily just straight up down a Stealer of Souls. So I love that tempo play from Jay.
Yeah, it did get answered in a kind of a strange way, not really an expected way there, but still piling on the pressure. And it does, whenever you do something like that, it will just slow you down, right, as the Demon Hunter. So Seiko didn't really get to pop off there. And J4YOU's got even more pressure. I think we might keep this Stealer of Souls in his hand. He's got an option for, I think he can play Flesh Giant, right? Yeah. He's got to drop down the Flesh Giant, and now he's slowly moving towards the mana where he can play Stealer of Souls with tap, or wait an additional turn. Maybe he draws, one of the card draws like Backfire, for example, to be able to just cycle a lot with that Stealer of Souls.
Right. Seiko, on the other hand, has had a couple of nice little procs on his own quest, hitting the Fellscreen Blast and the Il'gynoth, so he has the potential for early OTK, which is something that you do have to watch out for in this matchup, because like it's one of those things where in this matchup with Stealer of Souls, if you're going to go for the OTK, like if you're going to come at the king, you better not miss kind of deal, right? Because if you go Stealer of Souls and don't OTK the Demon Hunter, you're going to leave yourself at like 6 HP, 12 HP, right? And then the ability for them to just smack you on the other side with like Il'gynoth, 1 Moarg and some Eye-Beams or something is super, super easy. So the fact that discounted Il'gynoth and a couple of Fellscreen Blasts are already in hand here for Seiko, it's going to spell danger for Jay, because this does tend to hover around the low health numbers once Steal of Souls gets involved.
Yeah, especially because Jay's naturally going to be trying to play a wide-ish board, which means there's more than enough ways for Seiko to target, multiple levels of minions with these spells as well. But that's double 1-mana Moarg, which, yeah, looks pretty good for next turn, doesn't it?
He has 24 next turn, right? Because all of these minions are still going to be there, so he's going to be able to Fellscreen Blast both times, absolute minimum.
Yep.
Which spells danger for Jay on the other side.
Yeah. Can he do it in a way where he can, if he drew Eye-Beam as well, he could get an Eye-Beam off, right?
Yes, absolutely, because it will be outcast naturally from being the natural draw, so he would have room for it. The Neophyte is going to have something to say about that, though.
Muzzle their magic.
Yeah, and this is where the matchup does get tricky, isn't it? Because it's like, J4YOU, again, he's had a good job here, especially with that Neophyte backing him up, where he's not had to deal a lot of damage to himself. He's set up a ton of damage, but the second, if he went down a bit lower, he's in that fear factor moment, as you mentioned, so definitely tough to handle, but Seiko...
He's going to have to clear up, I think. He's going to have to break up his lethal, which was potentially this turn and would now be next turn, but I think he's going to have to break it up in order to clear this board.
Yeah, he's got the wrong spell damage minion, hasn't he? That's the issue right now.
Impatient.
Can he do it? The Guild Trader Immo does do 6, so he'd need 2 extra damage to deal to the Giant somehow if he wants to keep his combo intact, but there's just no way of doing that, right?
He just has to commit a Moarg, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he just has to deal with it. He's still got a ton of card draw, though.
Mm-hmm. He's digging. He's really searching for something better. This goes all the way back to that turn 1 thing, right? Where I was saying Seiko will always search for the hidden line, the slightly better, the slightly more optimized line.
Does he fell screen?
I don't think so, because that still continues to provide outs for him. Well, I guess it doesn't, because if you clear the board, double Fell Scream actually isn't that valuable.
Right, exactly, yeah.
You're not going to have the minions to point it at.
Yeah, and look at the heal, right? Like, he's just not dead unless something crazy happens next turn.
Mm-hmm. Pick up for Jay is Hand of Gul'dan, okay. Is just playable this turn if he really wanted to get down to it. He could also take a Live the Dream play here and go Sealer of Souls tap. Having just drawn 1 Hand of Gul'dan, though, that play gets significantly weaker, of course, because it's one of the nuts out of the deck.
Could he just natural tap with that unstable shadow as well in hand? And just clear off the board and hope he's not dead?
Such a bad turn if he doesn't get something powerful off the natural tap, though, isn't it?
I guess what's going to be powerful then? I guess that's the question.
Matron?
What does he need? Not that.
Yeah, not that. Yeah, that's the issue. Wouldn't have been any better with the Stealer play, though, right? Is I guess the argument for just doing the natural tap in the first place.
Yeah, of course.
You wonder about the merits of just playing Skull there in that spot, though. Skull, hand, sorry.
If he had Skull go down, I think he would have played it.
Yeah. Oh, such a miserable Hearthstone turn. Like, look at the respect you've had to pay to these minions on the other side. Like, only pushing 8 back on the counter swing there is so upsetting.
And also as well, one of, I guess in this situation, the downsides of playing this variant of Warlock is there's no Battleground Battlemaster in the list. So it's not like this Flesh Giant is potentially threatening 16, right? Like, it's going to hit for 8. And then the only other damage that's going to come down is from, you know, the Quest or Stealer of Soul procs.
It's just hilarious how constantly 1 mana away you are when you get that discounted Il'gynoth early on. He's going to drop the Moarg here just to be able to cycle the extra cards.
Oh, okay.
Does find Talented Arcanist now. We'll choose to go ahead and cycle the Persistent Peddler.
Time grows short.
Also, because of how this matchup's ended up, even this Tusk Piercer dealing damage to face is something to bear in mind, right? It's just getting him that little bit closer to doing one of the weaker OTKs.
Yeah, it's perfect because, you know, currently with no additional cards, he has +2 spell damage, so that's 3 on a Fell Screen Blast, doubled to 6 by the Moarg, and then hitting 3 times, so 6 times 3 is 18. 18
right.
plus the 1 from the Tusk Piercer the next turn is still just going to be lethal, even though it's a very low impact combo that Seiko currently has access to.
So many possibilities.
And now, what can he even do here? Does he have to go Stealer of Souls with Dark Glare and just tap?
He might do. I mean, if the assessment is I'm favoured to die next turn, then you try and do the counter lethal this turn instead, right? Which I think is reasonable.
Yeah.
A Matron. That is Matron. All right, go, Jay. You have already wasted far too long this time. This is literally impossible. Actually impossible. We'll never know. Unless he runs out of card draw before he ropes, we'll never know whether this could have been lethal. But it could have been. No, okay, he has already run out of card draw. Never mind.
My hand is full.
So shouldn't be any problems here for Seiko, right?
Yep.
Not at all. Wow, tough game there for, I think, both players, honestly. Both just pushing each other just enough that the game didn't end too early, didn't feel too easy there. And it got very, very close indeed. But again, although you mentioned the positives of playing the hybrid list, there's also those negatives, right? Of, well, if there was a chance at Battleground Battlemaster in the deck, then when the Giants were stuck, then that's a ton of damage. Or just as much as if he didn't have the Giants, then he could have gone off way earlier, potentially, with the big quest combo, right? So it's kind of all these things you play with when it feels like you can put any one of like 50 possible cards in Warlock right now, right? It's very, very difficult to decide on what you want in that 30 card list.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, you know, I said I think this is one of the few matchups where I wouldn't say that the Six Demons is the strongest version, and I would actually say having the fast Zoo starts and the Flesh Giants available to you is to your benefit. And I think a combination of Seiko playing very well and just having a few fortunate pan-outs kind of got him over the line. Because I loved the tempo Stealer play, right? Like, that could have just ended it. But Seiko had the new Lifesteal card that I still don't know the name of, lined up ready and outcast on the left-hand side of his hand, which is a very unusual pan-out that you wouldn't be expecting to play out in that way to be able to deal with it. Because as I said, there's not many ways, particularly when they're not showing Tusk Piercer already. Sometimes when they're showing the weapon, you'll be a little bit more hesitant to drop the Stealer of Souls into that. But when that's not showing, there's very few ways that they actually deal 6 damage from hand that early in the game. So Seiko had found a creative solution to that. I think he played and sequenced very nicely, found the right options. Choosing to heal instead of board clear on that turn that he did was fantastic, because you saw the respect that Jay had to pay back into his board anyway. Like, he basically cleared the rest of his own board anyway by trading them into the minions that Seiko played. But also you have to say he got a little bit lucky by hitting the discount on Il'gynoth and Fellscream Blast and Moarg so early on, which basically set him up for success for the whole rest of the game.
Yeah, and J4YOU's ticking a lot of boxes on his first Grandmaster day on stream here, because, you know, you like the deck building of the Druid, you know, you like of course you like the on-curve play of the Stealer, and also I like some of these additions to Hunter. I think I've seen a few players discuss this, of Bear Shark being an inclusion. I've heard players even say that they're taking Bear Shark, or putting Bear Shark in the list and taking out the Rhinos. Not sure about that personally, but the whole point is playing minions that are untargetable is very strong right now, which is why we even see mainly in Paladin a lot of players bring in that cloak as well, but to make the whole board untargetable being a bit of a problem. Here though, on the other side of deck building that Sol I think hates, is the one of typical Seiko, one of Lion's Guard in his Warlock list, and he is playing more of the minion focused I guess fatigue version, with the Baron Scavengers of course, and the Flesh Giants, and that one Battleground Battlemaster to have those kind of gotcha moments of, oh well, a minion stuck, now I do 16 damage, or 20 damage or whatever. So a bit more of the fatigue list that at least I personally have been playing a lot more of.
Yes, and also a one-of Lion's Guard, which is I'm
not sure about that.
That was a card that was introduced to me today when I looked at these deck lists, because generally that's just how my brain works. I know everything about every card that's played in the metagame, apart from what they're actually called. But the cards that aren't played in the metagame, I don't know anything about.
That's where I come in.
Yeah, so when I saw Lion's Guard pop up in Seiko's deck, I was like, what on earth is this? And you kind of get the theory, right? There's a lot of if cards in this Warlock, and it's part of why I don't like it. If your deck has less than 10 cards, you can kind of treat the Knolls that Felkane was playing as kind of an if card as well, right? If your hand size is massive, this is cheap. And then Lion's Guard is another one of those, if you have less health, gain +2/+4 and taunt. I was kind of like memeing about it earlier, and Derek said, well, come on, it's literally Molten Giant and Sun Fury in the same card, out memeing me, as Derek would obviously do. But, you can kind of see that argument, but I remain, I'm waiting to be convinced on the power of Lion's Guard.
I'm actually waiting on that series coming out at some point, the If series, because you could name any card like that, right? If you have 2 giants on board, Battlegrounds Battlemaster wins the game. Stuff like win the game. That's the card text.
Yeah. Also, all right, can we address this now? I don't know what this Battlegrounds Battlemaster card is that everyone has been talking about today. Thank you. I don't think it's been called. Put some respect on its name. The card is called Lotheb. If you have 2 big minions on board, instead of making their mana more, they die, Raven. That's how the card works. It's Lotheb.
I'm waiting to get the message of, please don't just call cards the completely wrong name on broadcast, because some players might not understand the joke. Moving.
Doing it. Sack me. This is a deal breaker for me.
Well, you heard him, guys. Lorinda? TJ? Anyone around? Moving, more importantly, onto this game, of course. J4YOU off to a fantastic start there. A lot of the minions nice and early with the Warpatinga and the Demon. He does have that Bear Shark ready on curve, and already you can kind of see the problem that untargetable gives your opponent. What does Seiko do if J4YOU plays Bear Shark?
Jay just says no. Jay says aim shot to the face.
He just counted it. Another aim shot into Coin Hero power. GG.
Yeah, I think backing that up with a second aim shot is a ton of damage. And I love these starts against Warlock. I think, obviously, everyone early in the game tries to do as much damage against Warlock as possible when they're playing an aggro deck, because that's what an aggro deck tries to do against every deck. But I think there's still a few people out there who have not quite grasped the power of dealing damage to Warlocks, even when it's not lethal. I've seen players against me get into positions where, I have 18 health left or something. I've indicated I'm about to pop off, and they've gone, oh, I can't kill him. Oh, okay. And then just concede. Like, no, deal like the 12 damage you can deal to me or whatever it is, and then see if I can still pop off with my 6 remaining health, right? Like, that's a really, really big deal. So dealing this much damage early in the game, I think that's where Jay's head's at, is the quicker he can limit the health pool of Seiko, then the fewer options are available to him.
And now things get a little bit more difficult for J4YOU now with the Tamsin and the touch. It does mean he has healed a ton. The good thing here is, though, if he plays a Bear Shark now, can maybe even play Kolkar Coin Bear Shark, I don't think he has to worry too much about any more removal. One, he's just seen a removal card from hand, but also, of course, the Bear Shark's not targetable. And if there's a Soul Rend, there's a Soul Rend. You know, that nothing's going to change that outcome, right? So I think J4YOU now should look at building up this board. Yeah, I like this a lot.
I like it too. Yeah, and I do like you bringing attention to the Bear Shark as much, this much as well. I actually played against a Face Hunter on ladder on America's, or a relatively decent rank, who added me after the game. And sent me a message, like, which wasn't salty, was just asking about things. And he'd played Cloak against me. And I was like, why do you have Cloak in your deck? And he was like, well, you know, there's lots of mages, lots of warlocks. I was like, you know, you're a hunter and you can literally play Bear Shark, right? Like, isn't that just better than playing Cloak?
But that's only one minion. What about all of your minions? But yeah,
it also has 4 attack, though, which is a lot more huntery than a Cloak of Protection.
That is true. Yeah, I think it's something that if the meta, you know, roughly holds for now in terms of just general class archetypes, that we might see more and more often, because you can see right now, like, what Seiko's supposed to do. What's Seiko supposed to do if he has any removal card that isn't Soul Rend? Still nothing, right? You just can't deal with it. And a lot of decks are in that spot right now.
Like, I'm going to take the discounts here. Does hit the Lion's Guard, which he is almost in range of activating, staying near 3 health away. But this Flesh Giant is going to go down to 1 here. Means it's going to be playable here alongside the Tour Guide for next turn.
Yeah, this is the weird issue, because shock horror, I tried Lion's Guard on like day 1 or 2 of the meta in Warlock. And the problem I had was, because it's health-based and you heal for so much, it's kind of weird sometimes to actually try and get down with its effect, because it requires that health total. And sometimes oh no, I've healed too much. I've got too much health now. So sometimes I was playing it
at 17. I'll just life tap to get into range. Oh, I've completed my quest. Yeah, exactly. It's ruined everything.
Yeah, honestly, it's tough.
It's just Bear Shark Hero Power go face, isn't it?
Or Bear Shark Neophyte, maybe. I don't hate that either.
Okay.
But I do agree, because what this does is, with these 2 Bear Sharks now, it forces Seiko to almost certainly trade the Giant into one of them, right? And suddenly, the Giant becomes very, very killable. It's pretty much, like I said, outside of exactly Soul Rend, this is going to continue to be a problem. Oh no.
I know people do have...
Like the old days, Sol. You've got to think about what health you put the Warlock to. Lion's Guard is active.
He didn't play around Molten Giant. Oh, an idiot. Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, people have different perspectives on this. My opponent has a discounted hand, so should I use Neophyte or not thing? Like, some people will say, well, the hand's discounted, so is it worth me Neophyting to put the hand back to normal? And then some people take the exact opposite stance of like, well, yes, I don't want my opponent to have a discounted hand, so I'll put it back to normal on the following turn. But to me, it felt like the weaving of the hero power might just be necessary for Jay to be able to drag himself over the line here, but I think with the overall power of the hand that Seiko's left with here, with that one of Lion's Guard inclusion coming in clutch here in this case, Seiko does now have an opportunity to race if he really wants to. So that's a lot of protection on the other side.
Yeah, and there are no... I forgot the name of the best card in Hearthstone. The 1-cost Discover the Mana.
Oh, Resizing Pouch?
Yes, sorry. There are no Resizing Pouch available for J4YOU for a Poisonous either, so getting through the 6-10 without, say, a Piercing Shot is going to be very rough. Especially now tracking. He's not going to have the mana to play Piercing Shot anyway. Never mind, I'm talking rubbish. He cut Piercing Shot for the Bear Sharks.
He did cut Piercing Shot for the Bear Sharks, yeah. still has not used this hero power since, it was turn 3 aim shot, right? Like he played it on curve,
Yeah,
I think.
yep.
And he just still has not weaved in this hero power since then, which shows how much attention he has been paying to the board, which I think was a reaction, right? Because he went all in and then he had a very damage-based hand. But Seiko had the nuts with the Tamsin on the other side, which you know, Tamsin honestly is one of the decks that makes this such a powerful anti-aggro deck in the way that some of the other combo versions aren't. So having seen that response, I think Jay then pivoted and decided that he had to play for board a little bit more. And that's why we just haven't really been seeing this damage-based approach up until now. But this is a miserable feeling turn now for Jay, I would imagine. He can't even bring himself to do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to... So the problem now is without piercing shot, it's very difficult to say, actually, what if I go aim shot face, you know, and try and do something a bit different there with tracking and pushing damage, but he has to kill the Lionheart now, so this is looking very, very rough. This tracking has to be perfect, along with the next card he draws.
You get accustomed to the smell.
Second Neophyte from Seiko might just lock this out, right? There just won't be the mana to, even if it's, what would he need? Like, yeah, double quick shot won't do it either.
Yeah, he would need to track into something cheap and dealing damage, and then play that, have his natural draw be quick shot, so the quick shot then draws, and then the quick shot draws more damage, right? That's the only way he can possibly put it together, but even then, I don't think without the Neophyte that was possible. It's absolutely not possible with the Neophyte.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't. I was thinking of Arcane Shot, but this is just not the mana even without the Neophyte, right? So yeah, you're right.
Wait, is Arcane Shot in his deck?
Oh yeah, you can't get it. I've been playing too much Quest Hunter, so...
What are you talking about?
Quest Hunter's semi-loopy, that's why I've stopped playing it. That's going to be the concede there, and that was... Oh, it was so close for J4YOU, but honestly, the Tamsin with the double touch was absolutely huge, and you can see then that the counter pressure, and to be fair, you know, joking aside, a huge taunt minion against Hunter when you're not just dead with like from spell damage, I guess, it is a big problem, and that soaked up all of those Bear Shark attacks. It was absolutely huge. Look how much pressure J4YOU put on, and I think he was quite right to do so, although I think in the position, I would have probably dropped Bear Shark on that turn 3. You can see how it would have worked out, right? Aim shot into aim shot coin hero power is an absurd amount of damage to end the game.
Yeah, agreed. I think definitely a big turn to look at. Also worth looking at, did he need to play around Molten Giant, right, as we put it at the time? Because he did put them exactly to the 15 health break point. Obviously, if you hover them around 17 or 18, it's very easy for them to manipulate that themselves at that point with tap or raise dead or whatever else. So, you know, maybe it is worth just going a little bit more all in, especially when you're playing a more aggressive deck in in Face Hunter. But I think there's definitely a couple of points to look at there. But either way, Seiko will now move on to the Quest Mage, and he, like many other of the Grandmasters, is using that one thief as just a self-sufficient minion that he can use himself to shoot frost spells at, while also discovering additional spells of whatever school he might need to complete the quest. However, because Seiko is the unique and special little flower that he is only playing one of them, and also finding room for a one of Devolving Missiles in his deck as well.
Yeah, I actually was looking at HS Replay earlier today, and I think this list it's not got the biggest sample size, but it's not tiny either. It's like one of the highest win rate decks right now. Highest win rate Quest Mages, sorry, build-wise. So yeah, like the 1-1-1 list is kind of looks kind of weird, but it makes sense. Devolving Missiles especially is a card that when I was playing Quest Mage initially a few days or a week ago or so, I was thinking, oh, Devolving would be good here. Oh, Devolving would be good here. Less so as, oh, this card needs to prop the quest, but more just with a lot of Paladin knocking around or some more of these aggro-based decks, like Devolving can get a really good job done. So pretty interesting list overall. We'll see if it makes it work. I think this matchup, just in general against Warlock, is pretty favoured, although this list is a little bit different than the one I'm used to facing from J4YOU.
Yeah, we had this discussion earlier, which we had to check into, because Raven bless him, has been having a rough day on ladder. He's been queuing into the counter matchups no matter what he played, and I said, just play Warlock. Warlock beats everything. And then he started queuing into Mage. He started queuing into Mage, and he said, oh, I just got Mage. And me not wanting to frustrate him anymore, because believe it or not, you know, off camera, I don't just spend my entire day annoying Raven. It is one of my favourite pastimes.
Yeah, he sleeps for a couple of hours.
I do have other interests as well, yeah. But then, you know, I was kind of, well, doesn't Warlock beat Mage? Because my stats against Mage, having played a ton of Warlock, are very favourable, but, you know, having checked into it and with the stat aggregation sites and so on, Raven does seem to be correct, and Mage does come out with a small advantage in this one. Although I do kind of struggle to see how, because I've always felt like if you're playing a Stealer version of the deck, you're quite often just one turn faster than the Mage on the other side, particularly if you're not playing minions, which, you know, I don't think Jay is going to be doing. I think Jay is very much going to be playing minions on his side, so we'll see how that plays into things.
Yeah, always tricky because these Warlock lists are so variable right now. It's hard to really nail down a single matchup, because the addition of, you know, even, you know, Warlocks that are playing like one Mosher in the list versus none versus two, for example, depending on what you're looking at, they can have big impacts on these burn races as well, right, if minions do get stuck. So definitely tricky, and we'll see it, you know, progress as the meta potentially settles down in the next week or so. But J4YOU just chucking out the minion nice and early there, and just giving Seiko a target to really work his magic with.
Yeah, he kept minions. He kept minion, which I think is an interesting mulligan in the true sense of the word. It hasn't really been something I've been doing. I have been mulliganing generally more aggressively for like free admission backfired kind of stuff, even with this version of the deck that does play a ton of minions. Or even then, if you're going to be playing a minion on two, I would like it to be the Blood Imp as opposed to anything else, right? Because that's what really starts ramping your quest and getting it going. So I think it was a very interesting mulligan, but it does speak to Jay just wanting to play a curve of minions. And I think having kept that curve, Raise Dead is honestly the perfect draw for him, right? Because it gives him that security blanket I was talking about. It doesn't matter if any of these big combo piece minions die now, because he has them stacked up in a Raise Dead anyway. Do it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this plays out, because this devolving missiles can mess up Raise Dead, right?
Yes. It can. It's a great keep.
Straight away, yeah, very nice play here if he goes for this, I think.
It's a great keep, and I think this one of inclusion, this Arcane Missiles, might just win this game and this series for Seiko. This is good sequencing. He was very excited about his Arcane Missiles, but the playing the Frost spell first will now complete his quest for the first quest line, or the first stage of the quest line, I should say, and he can now activate the Arcane tick on the second stage of the quest line by using the Devolving Missiles. And that means now no Stealer of Souls in that Raised Dead pool. So Jay, who looked at that hand as 100% upside, right? Play the Stealer of Souls. What's going to happen? It's going to get fireballed. That's the bad case scenario. Big deal. Raise Dead, play it again. Deal with it again. I have Backfire in hand. The second it sticks, I win the game on the spot with Stealer of Souls Backfire. It looked like sunlit uplands going into the future for Jay, but suddenly Devolving Missiles, as it tends to do, just sent him crashing back down to reality.
Yeah, really good keep there for Seiko. And like I said, it just felt right in the list to just have that option, because it's not as if you're like, oh, well, you've got to draw it. It's like, well, yes, but Mage generally draws through a massive chunk of its deck on a game-by-game basis anyway. Second Ice Bar is pretty nice. One thing I will say, though, J4YOU having double Backfire keeps him in this game for me, at least for now, because that is just a lot of card draw, a good amount of self-damage, and he can get this quest going maybe fast enough if Seiko ends up having to play maybe overly defensive.
What's happened? Why are his cards still green? I'm so confused. What's happening this time?
Just the way Mage is, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on this one. I have a slight spectator bug. Did he play the Enchanters? Right, okay, no, okay, we're caught up, we've caught up, we're okay. The world's right again.
Yeah, they were just lit up while he was discovering the quest reward for some reason, just not really entirely sure why.
Never too bad, actually, to play an Ignite before you Enchanters, because it it just encounters the Ignite in the deck then instead, because obviously every time you shuffle in, it's a natural 2 mana. So after you've played Incanters, you still have to pay 2 mana for those recycling Ignites. So not really a big deal that he's had to hold off on that. He'd rather just get the quest done and progress in the overall game plan. And is Jay at the point now where it's just stick a board, play a neophyte, and kind of hope for the best?
Wow, okay. I mean, apparently, yes. Apparently, Jay is feeling a lot more desperate than I was in this scenario, because I would describe this as a pretty desperate play. This is quite all in, right? And if this Stealer doesn't survive again, he's kind of out of win conditions at that point, right? Like, I don't think how he can realistically hope to win the race at that point.
It would be literally ripping back-to-back Giants, right? Like, and somehow Seiko not having freezes or something. You know, it would be very, very far-fetched, I think.
He's asking the question here to make Seiko have to deal with this. Currently, he does only have 5 damage that he can deal to it.
Yeah, and maybe because of this One Thief, because of this Devolving Missiles, Seiko is not one of the players currently playing the Shatter as well for that Flurry, so there's not even a way you can you know, hopefully draw into that and then go with that Flurry as well.
Time runs out on me.
Shot the Dark Glare.
Oh!
Yeah, he's discovered Fireball, but he shot the Dark Glare. Don't you get so many more outs if you shoot the... Okay, never mind. We're here now.
This just looks optimal to me, Sol.
It does, yeah. No, you're not right. I mean, it would have been wasted damage if he'd have shot the Stealer Assaults, right? Jay officially in trouble in this series. I said that the Devolving Missiles one-off, the tech card for Seiko, might have just sealed this one. It looks like it still might, but this is now going to be the big push for Jay, because he is now going to go digging for Giants, right? He's going to get a ton of ramp here with the double Dark Glare. He's going to just try and make the biggest, most aggressive board he possibly can this turn. He does find Giant number 1.
He can still tap, and remember those Dark Glares are constant effect, so he can still gain mana as he goes. It's likely this Giant can go down.
Yeah, the more I think about it, actually, I apologize. I thought he was out of Raised Deads. I thought he'd used both of them already.
Oh, right, no.
With another Raised Dead remaining, his players actually makes a ton of sense, because, like, I think, again, there were random niche lethal outs this turn using that second Raised Dead to get a Stealer of Souls back and then be ramping a ton of mana with the Dark Glares, right? To be able to get back up to the point where you are playing cards. I take it all back. I think it was a very, very smart play on the previous turn from Jay to be tempoing out his cards.
It's really tricky as well because, again, due to this version of Warlock that Jay's gone for, he doesn't run the weapon, right? So there isn't those really nutty reductions you can get to just make everything so cheap that you can actually cycle a ton. So all these factors are really going to be kicking in here. Flurry is going to be coming down now, though, for Seiko. Not freezing the Giant, which is not really the preferred target there for Seiko.
I have proven
Yep,
myself.
that is going to be quest complete, and I don't think there is really any other play here for Seiko. He is just going to drop it, and he is going to say, okay, the race is on.
He does have Flow, Cram Session, Ruined Orb. You know, he has all the things you want spell damage for, and card draw, of course, but this is a reasonable chunk of damage here for J4YOU.
Why is he not going?
Yeah. He has...
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
You have to draw
No time.
first, right? Draw first, then work out if you need to trade or not.
Yeah, you absolutely do need to trade at some point, yeah, but you don't have to worry about that just yet.
Yeah, you can hit the draw first, right, and then review. Yeah. Well, here we go.
Oh, no time. The rope is coming. This was lethal. I'm pretty confident.
Much like winter, the rope is on its way.
Yeah.
Wow, Jay taking and you'll understand what I mean, but a safe approach to this turn. And I don't mean safe as in game winning. I mean safe as in not messing up on camera, I guess. I don't know. That looked like a very good hand for me.
Yeah, the question becomes like timing issues and then concerns about whether he actually had enough board space to be able to play everything that he needed to play, right? Because this isn't the combo-based version of the deck. You can't like school spirits away your own board because you just don't have that card available to you. But he did have the 7/7 to trade multiple minions into on the other side if he needed to make board spaces for things to happen. So certainly would have been an interesting like flip to take there, I guess, as to whether you want to go for it or not, to bet your lethal against your opponent's lethal on the following turn.
Seiko can dispatch this giant without much problems. Again, apologies about the lack of Discover showing up for you guys. Sorry about that.
He got a Potion of Illusion, Cone of Cold, and some garbage. It was not a great Discover.
Cone of Cold, though, because it's not looking like Jay's going to pop off with a big quest turn, or a big Tamsin turn, should I say, isn't the worst pickup. He can delay it now. He's sitting on that Fireball. He's got an Ignite in there. He's got some spell damage with the Mini-Mage. He's got card draw. I think Seiko's really looking at 1, maybe 2 turns to end this game.
And this is the problem now, right? Because Jay at this point is definitively out of Stealer of Souls. He's played 2 natural ones and played 2 raised deads, so his Tamsin win condition is going to end up being quite slow. He will be able to play it here because this obviously is costing him 0 and completing the quest, but there really aren't all that many different methods left in his deck in order to deal damage to himself.
It's also tricky, and this is it, right?
That's so much damage though. That's so much damage.
So much damage we need to whisper for some reason I don't know.
Broom? Because Broom deals 1 extra damage. Like, cut 1 health off the Wand Thief and then shoot the Unstable at it? I guess not. Okay.
Well, what's going to be quite good is if Jay can somehow keep hold of this hand, I mean, if the game even goes on long enough, but waiting till Fatigue to get hand is huge, because the problem is if he like naturally hits Fatigue, it's still not tons of damage, right? It's 1 damage and 2 damage. Like, it takes a little bit to stack up into something scary if you don't have card draw ready to go to really push it.
Neophyte doing a ton of work here, I think. I think the Neophyte is preventing lethal, right? Because he can't go Ignite, Fireball, Rune Door, Ping, which he would have been able to do otherwise. Does he still get there? I'm not 100% confident how much that Ignite deals, which is critical information. Looks like it deals 6. There's that plus Fireball.
Oh, Fireball, yeah.
Yes, it's with the 1 damage from the Wand Thief, he does actually get there in the end. Yeah, very nice. Getting over the line, and that is going to be 3-0 for Seiko, taking it down with the finest of margins. A very clean and confident performance from Seiko overall, you would say, in his first week back in Grandmasters.
Yeah, really considered play there. You can see even early on, again, it's the small things and they might look simple, but you mess any of those up. And in this meta at the moment as well, it's like, it's so dangerous. You've heard us talk about the games that have been played so far, discuss almost every single turn with multiple different ways to go about it. And that's how in-depth some of these decks are right now and how tough the meta is to really get a good handle on. So a huge victory here for Seiko as he just rocks a 3-0 for the first match on stream for this season. Really impressive, but honestly, speaking of impressive, I think Jay actually played really well overall. I think some of his decisions were very, very on point.
I think it started off well, and then I started to have more and more questions. And again, I think you'll have to refer to Gabby or give me some time and a pen and paper to actually be able to tell you. But I think there were spots there towards the end for Jay in particular where maybe he had some lethal outs with the pop-off with Stealer of Souls. Because when he wasted a lot of time just thinking at the start of the turn and then tapped into Hand of Gul'dan. So at that point, he had a Hand of Gul'dan which gained him 2 mana.